Guys, we are 2 days out from the 2025 NFL draft. Like, it is just getting exciting. That number 18 pick we got, so many questions still. But today, we continue on with the best fits. And today, we're going to break down receiver, DBs, and tight end. Now, we're going to kick it right off at receiver on the other side. But before that, guys, if you haven't done it yet, go down and subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, share the videos, hit the notification button. We got that draft party coming up. Don't want to miss that one. And it's just a great way to support the channel. And you can also go down and buy us a coffee. Everything is in the description. The links are there. So yeah, let's waste no time. On the other side, best fits, receivers, DBs, tight ends.
So y'all can sit here and ask me all the questions y'all want to.
Don't you ever talk about
Man, let's go. It's go time, baby.
I'm just about that action, boss.
You ready to go get it. You just like to do it.
That's what it is.
Defense trying to do that. Pass is caught back in. Can't chase it. What a catch! Jackson Smith and Are you kidding me? Baldwin. Oh my goodness, he caught it.
This is the HawksZone Rundown with your hosts, Ryan and Bryce.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. We're going to kick it off, waste no time. We're going to jump into 5 receiver fits that we think would best fit Seattle. Kicking it off here. A lot of people think we might take one at 18. There's still a lot of questions mark on that. But number 1 receiver here, Bryce, who do you got?
Number 1 receiver, I think it's someone that Seattle's probably done extensive work on. And, we heard Emery Hunt on our show that you guys probably heard this past weekend talk a lot about Luther Burden. I like Luther Burden, but he's not my top fit for Seattle and what they're going to do now with, Clint Kubiak in here. So Tetero McMillan is someone I've gone back and forth with, but I think, his size, he's 6'5", 210. He moves well. He has elite hands. He can win in the red zone, which is something, I watched an episode Brian Nimhauser did on Hawk Blogger, talking about the fact for DK, and me and Ryan both loved DK while he was here. DK was one of the worst red zone receivers in the NFL, given his size. He couldn't win those contested catches. That is something that is a staple of McMillan's game. He's a polished route runner. He can do all the things that you need him to do. And the other thing he does really well is he blocks, and he blocks hard. So for me, Tetero McMillan is one of the best fits for the Seahawks.
I like Ted McMillan, man. And the thing is, like you brought up DK, we both love DK, but it was one of those things where it was always that frustrating play where it was like fade to DK in the end zone, and it just never happened. Whether it was out of bounds or it was just that contested where it should never, with his size and ability, you just think it should never really be a 50-50. He should be 80-20ing that, right? So with Ted, that's the biggest thing, man. I think that the elite hand thing. And if you think of a red zone threat right now, like who do we have for that? You kind of look at that, like Jake Bobo, like, he's pretty far down the depth chart, right? So you get a guy like this, he's not going to be DK speed, but he's got a lot of good traits. And the thing is, you lose a big receiver in DK Metcalf, you plug and play Ted. So that is really intriguing for Seattle. Who do you got?
It is, and that's one. And that's one thing for me, like, I know we've talked about it extensively. We don't need that big X receiver.
Right.
No, I agree. Not in this offense, you don't need it. And Tech McMillan isn't a burner. He's not taking the top off your defense.
No.
What he does is he's going to be the guy that runs good routes. He's going to be your intermediate guy with JSN, but he's your big body intermediate guy. So if Seattle isn't in love with a tight end in this class, which is a possibility, at least one of these top guys, they may pivot and go, okay, we can get that big body catcher in McMillan instead of spending it on a tight end. It's just a potential, and this is why I think he fits here in Seattle really well. So my second guy on this list is Matthew Golden, receiver out of Texas. Matthew Golden, again, really good speed, good blocker, great route runner. Like, that guy is so smooth in and out of his breaks. He's going to add yak. And again, I don't look at MVS as someone that's going to be here potentially past this season. I think he's a 1 year, kind of like what we did with Marquise Goodwin. He's not a guy that they're, penciling in to be a long-term fixture in Seattle. He's filling a void. He's one of those guys that John Schneider goes and gets to hedge against the draft. I think personally is what they've done. If they get Matthew Golden, he comes in and can fill some of that MVS role and be a great complement to a Cooper Kupp and a JSN. And even if Cooper Kupp is moved off of in 2 years, I think Matthew Golden comes in as a perfect 1-2 punch with JSN.
That's gonna be it. Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. And talk about a burner, right? 4.29 40, like just has that elite speed and what you want. So I agree. Like there's short-term answers right now at receivers. So this would be a guy where you're bringing in, he's the long-term answer. He could be the future with JSN. So yeah, very, very intriguing player for sure. Who do you got at 3?
So 3 for me is Emeka Egbuka. And I know these guys are all guys we're looking at round 1 receiver types. Round 2, maybe. Egbuka is just a guy for me that if you listen to everybody talk about Ohio State, he was the guy. As much as Jeremiah Smith got all the yards and everything, you listen to Will Howard talk about him, you listen to a bunch of guys, coaches and everything, Egbuka was the leader of that team. And that is something, again, where I look at Seattle and I go, there's some voids that are now needed to be filled in the leadership role. That's a guy you can bring in. JSN knows him. He offers a similar skill set. And the only thing for me and why Ibuka's fallen down a little bit on my list for me is he can play outside, but he's played more inside. And he's been more of an inside guy. So, it was interesting because I was watching Dan Vian's podcast he did a few days ago with Brandon Kane. And Brandon Kane brought up a really good point. And we have Brandon on the show all the time. Love talking with Brandon.
Yeah.
Is sometimes you want a guy and you want to get him, but he doesn't fit necessarily what you need. And you try and say, oh, well, he can do a little bit of that. No, what he does best is what you want to highlight. And that's where with me, Ibuka is someone where I wonder, can he actually play outside? Or is he really more of a guy that can maybe do it? And so that's why he's fallen down the list for me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a ton of sense because, like you said, I think that was the old adage when you brought players in this league. Like, okay, well, that's great. Whatever you did in college, we're doing it like this. We're going to put you on the outside. And a lot of times that doesn't work. You saw it with quarterbacks. But, yeah, he's a slot receiver, 6'1", like he's Ohio State, man, the JSN thing, like that all signs point to yes. But like you said, is it a glaring need? You got JSN playing inside, so you have to force him outside. But yeah, definitely a dynamic player, leadership skills and explosive playmaking guys. So it wouldn't be a bad pick, but like you said, you're not running up at 18. I'd be very shocked. But like you said, this is a guy that projected to go earlier on. So for Seattle's fit, he's not going to be there at 50. So it's like, where would he go? You take him at 18, like you said, that would be falling down our list, like you said. So yeah, it makes a ton of sense. Who's that for you?
4 for me is someone that I have loved this entire draft process. And the reason he's at 4 is because I think the guys above him are just better.
Yeah.
They are just better receivers right now, which makes sense. You look at who the 3 guys are on this list. But someone I think that would be a great fit in Seattle if, say, you don't get one of the 3 guys I listed above, Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State. I have loved him from the beginning of this process. Again, he runs smooth routes. He's in and out. He's got speed. He blocks well. Him and his running mate there at Iowa State and Jalen Noel. I think both these guys are round 2 receivers. Jaden Higgins may even bump himself into a late round 1, depending what happens with McMillan, Golden, and Ibuka. But that for me is my number 4 on this list. There's not enough good things I can say about Jaden Higgins. I just think he's going to come into the NFL. He's going to be a receiver we look at in 3 or 4 years and go, how did he fall to where he did?
Yeah. And the fact, here's another big receiver, right? 6'4" with speed. So like you said, he's just fallen down the list because the other 3 guys you mentioned are just better players. But could you get him later? You think he could be there?
I think you can get him at pick 50. I think there's a chance he could be there, or at pick 52. Or, you know what, depending and it all depends again with the NFL draft and what's coming up in a couple of days here. it all depends when runs start. If there starts to be a run on receivers, you may not be able to get him at 50. He may go in the 30s. He may even go late, round 1 potentially. So it all depends when Seattle feels that run going. And this is the thing for me. I really think Seattle has to be aware of that because they cannot afford to miss out on some of the receivers in this class because of the fact that, guess what? JSN and Cooper Kupp are the only guys on your roster that are under contract in 2026.
Yeah, well, that's the thing because really quickly receiver became a need, right? Like we weren't talking receiver, like even. Well, I mean, we knew Tyler was probably more than likely not going to be on this roster, but you still thought it was going to be DK, JSN, and we'll find that third guy. Now things look a little different, especially when JSN kind of he becomes your number one guy. Not only is he's the only guy under contract with Cooper, there's question marks with Cooper. That's the thing. This is not prime time Cooper here. So people got to be aware of that. This is a huge need now. So where does Seattle value that and say we got to make this a point of emphasis and go get one now? And that's why some people think could be at 18. Yeah, we don't. That's what's intriguing about this draft and talking about receiver, that it could be at 18 because it
very well could. So, and with number 5 out of these, Torrey Horton out of Colorado State. So for me, he is a smooth in his routes. He's got reliable hands. He would be a possession guy, but he also has some speed. He can push vertical. But the other thing is he's got kick return experience too. Like this guy's can be a dynamic returner. So you bring him in, you're filling kind of 2 holes there. He's more of a guy I think you're getting in round 4 or day 3 of this draft, I think is when you can grab Torrey Horton. But he's going to come in. He's going to give you some special teams capability. And he's going to come in and potentially be a higher end receiver than you initially anticipate after a couple of seasons. So that's why he's there at number 5. And then my honorable mention is another guy I've been high on for this process, and that's Jalen Royals out of Utah State. Jalen Royals, he's got 6 foot 195, so he's a bit smaller than some of the guys we've talked about in this. Again, he has, he had 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns in 2024. You can move him around and do things. I just don't know how well he fits right away because there won't be a lot of 3 receiver sets potentially in this offense. So you got to find ways to get him on the field. But again, another guy that can come in, give you some kick return versatility if you need it. He's a guy I think that's going to be there probably in round 3 is where you'd have to go. So if you missed out on a Jaden Higgins, you could pivot to a Jalen Royals. So that's my list of receivers that are my top fits for Seattle.
Guys, those are fits, receiver. It's a need. So drop your comments down right now after you watch this or now, whenever, and let us know, where is it for you guys? Is it a top need? We know offensive line, but how big of a need is it? Do you think is for the Seahawks? And who do you like? Who would you run up the podium and announce first receiver for Seattle? But moving on.
And I'll just throw this up here just so everyone can see it before, so you got an idea.
Moving on to the DBs, guys. Like the thing is, again, you look. Oh, here he's throwing up the receivers, right?
I'm throwing up the receivers here, guys. So you guys can all take a look at this. Yeah. This is our receiver list, so you guys have an idea. These are the guys that we just talked about. So make sure you guys put in the comments when you watch this who you think, who's your favorite. Let us know. So
and even if it's not a guy on this list, I mean,
it
could be somebody who knows that we haven't even heard of. But look, going over to the DB side, you have a defense that Mike McDonald's putting together, and right now we say, hey, a lot of good talent over there, a lot of good talent. But again, you always got to think of the future as well. You talk about the corner room. Even a year ago, we were just like, yeah, we're deep, we're stacked. They drafted 2 corners last year. One didn't make the team, and one is definitely a developmental guy, still a developmental guy. Like, so then you say, okay, Trey Brown's out the door. What does that leave you with? And I'm talking just cornerbacks right now, but you got Devin, Reeks here, Josh Jobe, and there's question marks with Reeks. So again, there is a need on this side of the ball, and even the safety position, linebackers. There's so many things that we can still add to this defense. Safety, yeah, we saw a lot out of Kobe Bryant. Is he a long-term guy? Julian Love, like, you always got to keep looking. Bryce, let's go through the 5. let's kick it off with your first.
Okay, so my first is Siobhan Ravel Jr. out of East Carolina.
Mm.
So 6'3", 193. He's got really good speed, but he is coming off an injury, and that's where I think he might fall a little bit in this draft. And he's a guy you might have to trade up for into round 2 potentially to get, or if Seattle were to trade back in round 1, he's a guy I think could be on the table for them. He offers so much upside if you were to develop him. Like, I think he comes in, and to me, his biggest attribute too is he will stick his nose in there. He will make tackles. He is physical. He is not someone that is passive. And that's where I think, for me, he even bumps above Will Johnson, who I've got rated again, and I'll talk about it right now. Will Johnson's my number 2. Another really good corner who Seattle just had a visit with last week on their 30 visit list, and out of Michigan. A guy, again, didn't run a 40, isn't known for having amazing speed, but a guy that's opportunistic. He's physical. He's going to make plays. Either one of those two come in, and this changes the conversation on what's going to happen with Reek Woolen in Seattle. I think they both fit into Mike McDonald's defense. They're both aggressive. They're both ball hawks and can go make plays. I really like both these guys. I just have Ravel rated a little higher because I think he's a better athlete. However, I think Will Johnson may be the better overall prospect to start right away just because of the fact he's played at Michigan. He's played in that defense. He understands what Mike McDonald's defense is going to ask of him. So those are my top 2 guys.
Yeah, Will Johnson, Michigan product, and Mike McDonald guys, man. Like you said, that's the thing. Mike McDonald wants guys that are going to put their nose in there and not shy away. That's why we think there's a lot of question marks. What do they do with Reek? Maybe he's dealt at the trade or at the draft. We'll see. We will see. But moving on to
number 3.
I guess we're skipping. That was 1 and 2. So skip over to number 3.
Number 3 for me is Maxwell Harrison out of Kentucky. So, he had 5 picks in 2023. He is really good at blitzing. That is one thing this guy does really well, is he blitzes off the edge really, really well for a corner. Again, he's physical. He can play nickel. He can play outside. So you don't have to worry necessarily about, is he strictly an outside corner? Is he strictly an inside guy? He can move around. He's really good in zone coverage. His vision's awesome. Struggles a little bit in man-to-man, but as we know with Mike McDonald's defense, again, they play a lot of zone because of what they do in that front 7 with the movements and the simulated pressures and everything. So I think Maxwell Harrison could be another really good fit in the Seattle defense as a corner. So he's another guy for me that I've got ranked in the top, our top fits for Seattle.
Yeah, absolutely. And blazing 40 speed. I think he clocked in like a 4.28. So
he can move.
Yeah, man, he can move. Moving on to 4.
So number 4 is a safety for me, and that's Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame. So we talk about, they've let go of Rayshon Jenkins here. You've got Julian Love. Kobe Bryant's on last year of his deal. I expect him to probably get an extension at some point, whether that's after training camp or at some point during the season. So for me, Seattle's looking potentially to get that third safety. They like to play it a lot. Xavier Watts gives you that. He can be a bit of a center fielder, but he's really good in run support. Like, he is a great in the box guy. He would be able to come in and compete with Bell, who we just signed for snaps there. I just think, you look at him, he had 7 interceptions in 2023. The guy finds a way around the ball, but he's just so good at being instinctual and knowing where to be. And if you put him on tight ends and stuff, he's going to cause problems. So him, for me, he's on this list at number 4.
Where do you see the need for safety for the Hawks, like ranking wise? I mean, do you think, like, because we talked about Kobe Bryant, like you love him. I really like him too, but we kind of say, okay, they're not going to jump to, super quick to give that extension. There's probably another season. There's probably a little bit unknown there, right?
They're going to have to give him an extension during the year if they're going to give him one. Otherwise, I think there's a good chance he'll find another home next year in free agency.
Right.
So I would say the need for safety is higher than people think. I think there's a higher need for safety than there is for some of the other positions we've talked about, because you're trying to help this defense with Mike McDonald stay at the level it finished last season at. And they're running out 3 safeties was part of that scheme package that gave them some advantages. So I think it's definitely a need up here. And it's actually what pivots into my number 5 guy here in Kevin Winston Jr. out of Penn State. So He's a guy that, has versatility. He had 45 tackles and 2 interceptions in 2024. He was one of the better run supporting safeties in college football. So the biggest thing for him is he's coming off an injury, right? He got hurt. And I think if he hadn't gotten hurt, we're potentially talking about a guy that would have been at the higher end of this draft. He would have been up there in the conversation of one of the top safeties. I think now he's kind of slipped due to this injury. And this is where some guys get taken off boards because they're hurt and the production didn't match and so on. However, I think he's a guy that you bring in if you bring in Kevin Winston Jr., where if you were to lose Kobe Bryant, he could plug in and play Kobe Bryant's role in 2026. Like that's what you're looking at here is with him and Watts are two guys that if you were to move off Kobe Bryant for whatever reason, they are plug and play guys that can come in after learning a year of playing in the 3 package sets to come in and be that other safety. So those are my 5 guys. My honorable mention is a corner, and it's Darian Porter out of Iowa State. And again, another physical guy. I think he's more can play in the inside and the nickel to start with, which would free up Devin Witherspoon to stay on the outside. And that's where I think, he's got limited speed. His man coverage struggles make him a riskier fit compared to, say, Ravel and Hairston. But his upside is intriguing for a guy that I think you can get maybe at the end of day 2 into round 3 potentially is where you may see Porter go.
Yeah, awesome stuff. So guys, to summarize, we'll toss that graphic up for you real quick. There's your 5, and then your honorable mention. Guys, drop in the comments. How do you like this list? Do you think it's kind of on point? With especially with fits, guys. We got to remember that with what the Seahawks needs are and fits. What do you think of this list? Toss in the comments. What are your favorite guys at these positions at DBs? We want to hear from you guys because we are a couple days out here, so we're getting close. So finishing off, position that Clint Kubiak, speaks highly of with his offense, that it's an important position. We're talking about the tight end spot, man. Like right now, you look at who we have, and it's Noah Fant that he's been on this team for 3 seasons, and it's kind of like, okay, when Grubb came in, it was like, well, once Grubb gets him involved, he's gonna get scoring touchdowns again, and it just he's a solid guy. I think we can agree with that, but is he enough? Is he enough? And then obviously AJ Barner, just solid rookie year. Showed actually there was especially in the passing game, he surprised some people. So he's a good young player. But when we look at tight ends here, there's some really, really top dudes in this draft and some intriguing guys. Let's hear your 5, man. Let's throw them out there. Fits for the Seahawks. There's a couple guys. I mean, yeah, if they're there, it could be intriguing to run up to that podium.
So for me, my number 1 guy is Colson Loveland out of Michigan. He's the guy that I think has maybe the most upside out of the tight end group, potentially. People talk about his ability. He had great receiving skills coming out. He's been paired with AJ Barner in the past. The thing for me is he's an adequate inline blocker, but he's better off when he's suited in a multi-tight end set. So it's not just him as the only blocker. So pairing him with AJ Barner, or if Noah Fant's still on this roster, it will be helpful. But I think he just gives you so much flexibility where you can move him into the slot to get a 11 personnel look, but really it's 12 based on the tight end, but you're in that offset slot tight end kind of role. He's going to give you some stretch vertically down the seams. So that's why for me, I think Colson Loveland again, I think he's one of the few players that you could say, like, if he somehow fell to Seattle, he may be a guy they go running to the table to get. Number 2 on this list for me is the other top tight end that we're talking about in this class, which is Tyler Warren. Both of these guys fit Seattle and what Seattle wants to do. And Tyler Warren, he can inline block. He's got reliable hands. He fits into those kind of roles. He's a guy you could potentially leave in more as a single tight end to block, and he's going to be okay in those roles. I think he maybe has a better pro-ready skill set, but I don't see the athletic upside that I see in the same way of Loveland. They both are athletic. Don't get me wrong. I just think Loveland possesses maybe a little bit more speed and can stretch things more vertically down the middle of the field as a tight end, which gives him the slight edge for me here in this situation. So those are the top two guys I have on this list.
Do you think either, for fans watching, have a chance to be there at 18?
You know what? The more we, with being only a few days out, I feel that this top 15 of this NFL draft, really the only thing that's really cemented is the top 3 picks, I think, of where guys are going to go.
Yeah.
Other than that, I have no idea. Like, we could get surprises that push guys like this down the board where we're saying, holy, we didn't expect that guy to go, or we didn't expect this run to start from picks 7 through 12. Like, and all of a sudden these guys are getting pushed down the board. There's a potential that they could be there. I think there's more of a potential of Loveland being there than Warner, just because I think teams are going to value Warner's blocking skill set better as being their sole tight end. Where in Seattle, we have AJ Barner, who proved he can do that. We've proven that we got no offense. So Loveland may be able to slide down because of the fact he's going to be a guy that you're banking on more of his athletic receiving up traits and pairing him with somebody else. So that's why I think Loveland may fall down the board. But I think there's a chance, man. Really, there is.
Yeah, now that'll just make things that much more interesting if he's on the board, especially when now you're looking at like, hey, this is a really good player, but we have other needs. But best player available, so that's kind of where you look at that. But yeah, that would be an exciting guy to slide in this offense for sure, and especially if they don't take a receiver, so that there's your receiving tight end. So he's like a receiver. George Kittle in San Francisco, the guys that Kubiak has had that are focal points in his offense. So yeah, that would be interesting if he's still sitting there. Moving on to number 3.
Number 3 for me is Mason Taylor out of LSU. NFL bloodlines, right? He's got a godfather, I believe, in Zach Thomas, linebacker for the Dolphins. His dad is Jason Taylor. He is going to be a guy that is going to understand what it means to be a pro. He is more, if you look at Loveland and Warner, he's a little bit less of an athlete than Loveland and Warner, but I think he's a better blocker than both of them. And that's the key thing with Mason Taylor is you may not get the same athletic skill set, but you're going to get a very reliable receiver, a guy that you can move around, do a lot of things with still. I think he has more of a chance of being a guy that Seattle maybe takes because they go at a different position group in the first round, and you can get Taylor, I think, maybe in the second round of this draft. He is getting a lot of buzz that he might move up, but he's a guy I think that you bring into your building. He potentially within a year is tight end 1, and it's not even a question.
Yeah, that's an interesting take as far as like, if they feel, again, this is the fits show. So if they feel like, hey, look, there's more need over here at 18, different position now, a guy like this, obviously Loveland and Warren are gone. Possibly this guy's sitting here at 50, then possibly you have best of both worlds because you address, you're getting hopefully obviously a starter at 18, what you want, and then you can fill that tight end need. So yeah, that's an interesting fit right there. What about 4?
4 for me is Harold Fanning Jr. out of Bowling Green. So he's more, I think, a guy that, again, I think round 3 probably is where he goes. I put him below these guys because he's just not a very polished product yet. He, I think, is the best receiver outside of Colson Loveland in this draft class. And he has an odd way of making separation from DBs. Like you watch him run and he just you're kind of shocked he gets open. I think he could be a guy that you maybe even use if you're in Seattle as a fullback. He can do some of those things. You can create, mismatches with, hey, we look like we're in an I formation, and all of a sudden Harold Fanning Jr. is the fullback, and we leak him out into the flat. He catches it and goes for 40 yards down the sideline. So he's more of a chess piece and, a Swiss Army knife that Kubiak could use that you'd pair with a AJ Barner, who's more of a traditional tight end. That's where I have Harold Fanning Jr. at number 4.
Yeah, I like it, man. And then rounding off your 5th and final,
Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon. So he's very similar to AJ Barner. I think he might be less of an athlete than Barner, but a good complement in the sense that you're going to get two guys, similar skill sets, can do the similar things. If you're in 12 personnel and 2 inline tight ends, you can run behind either one of these guys. They can both block. They can both release out. They can be weapons in the passing game. Terrence Ferguson's a guy I think you get in round 3 or round 4 of this draft class. He's a guy, if you miss out on any of the guys I've mentioned above, he's a guy that's going to come in. He's still going to add value. He's still going to help this offense. He's just not nor the blocker or the receiving threat that any of the guys I mentioned above are.
Yeah, no, for sure. Love the 5. You got an honorable?
Honorable mention, Brant Kuthi out of Utah. So he's a little undersized. He's 6'2", 230. So it limits his blocking, but I look at him as more of a tight end / fullback, like an H-back role more. His receiving ability is really good. He can get into the slot. He can do some of those things. His injury history is what I think is going to lower his draft stock, and where he's a guy that you could get maybe in round 5 or 6 even. Maybe even you potentially stretch it around 7. Like he may fall that far. But he's kind of an interesting guy depending on where, again, Seattle's needs go and what they do. They could pivot to a guy like this and look at it as, hey, we bring him in. He adds 10 more pounds. He's 6'2", 240. Now we have our fullback that we can also use in tight end sets as well because he's played that position. He understands it. We've got our Swiss Army knife guy there because we know Seattle has brought in a couple fullbacks now or tight end / fullback guys for visits. Adam Prentice was the most recent one who was in Kubiak's system last year. So it could be interesting to see if Seattle does pivot. They may take one of the guys we've talked about and then still take this guy later on in the draft just to get that fullback type.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting honorable mention. Guys, recapping real quick here so you guys can have a look at the list. Here's your recap. Tight ends. You guys know, most people know the first 2 names, and you should know Mason, and then you get down there. Some interesting later guys. So, guys, again, drop in the comments who you like. Do you like the fact that we got Colson at 1 and Tyler at 2? Especially for the fit, guys. That's kind of what we're looking at here. And drop it in the comments. Who's your favorite tight end? Would you love it if Seattle ran up to the podium at 18 and grabbed a tight end if Colson or Warren was there? So drop in the comments, guys. That's your 3. That's a lot of guys, man. We cover receivers, DBs for you guys, and tight ends. So that is, we're 2 days out from this draft, guys. There's going to be one more fit show for you guys tomorrow, and that'll get you ready to go. You ready to go. We've had a lot of draft coverage for you guys. You had the mock Monday there. Emery Hunt coming on. You got one more show coming up. Just get you all ready to go, and then sit back, get your popcorn, and see what they're going to do. Because it's we still have no idea. It's not like clear cut what they're going to do here at 18 or just the rest of this draft. It's awesome because it's Mike. It's full season now with John to really sit back, analyze everything, get the proper game plan going on for how they want this team looking. So I'm excited, man. It's coming quick. It's awesome.
Yeah, man. And I'm really excited for, the show that we've got that's going to come up tomorrow. We've got running backs, linebackers, and quarterbacks will be the final way. And the quarterbacks will be the back end of that. I ain't starting with quarterbacks, but it's my 5 guys I think are the best fits. And it's going to be a good show to get everyone kind of just finally dialed in. Guys, we'll make sure that, we'll bring up even these layovers and stuff, the graphics during our show. Cause our first day 1 draft, round 1, it's kind of special. It's going to be a joint show with Dan Vians of Seahawks Forever. And also, guys, we have Michael Thompson, who was on the mock draft yesterday with me. He's going to be on again to come on and be our 3rd host. He's going to work with me and Ryan here on, the draft coverage because he is a pretty good draft expert for us. So we're going to have Michael Thompson from Field Goals on with us throughout the 2 days of the NFL draft. Yeah,
it just keeps going, man. This is it's a busy time of the year. So here we go. So guys, appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure you go down and hit the subscribe button, sub to the channel, go to fieldgoals.com as well. We're over there, and awesome content over there from a bunch of other guys. So that is it for us. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.